So in this video, let's talk about the Cipher Lesson 2 again. This time we're going to be researching what we talked about in the previous Connecting Ciphers and Ciphers video. So in Cipher Lesson 2, we talked about Alexander Jackson, who is a young man of interesting character and great intelligence. And then it talked about how he was going to a school in a small suburban town, and he's a child prodigy in many ways. But however, despite that, he's also a curiosity, and curiosity usually means like he's considered odd or strange to the general world. So what we're doing is trying to understand this cipher, because in chronology, ciphers are a sign of patterns that we need to understand so that we can understand not only the past but produce and understand the future to prevent problems from happening before they begin. So, let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is let's research a key term, because in chronology what we do is we take a key term and then we put a key term within the equation of the pattern, and then we start to dissect it into a bunch of little bitty parts until we find tidbits of information. Then we take these tidbits and we make them into facts. And as we do this, it may seem hard to understand at first. But if we keep doing this and we keep producing a strategy or a technique of chronology, then it will become more concrete. So let's get started. First, let's find out what some of the key terms are in this. So he's his mental state is of interesting character, great intelligence, teenage and younger. He grew up in a small town, so not in the city. He was considered a child prodigy, and he was also considered a curiosity. Okay, now what is the cipher in this? When we consider these keywords, one keyword that pops out is child prodigy and small suburban town. So let's look into this a little bit further. And let's find out a history of child prodigies. I'm gonna put ancient in here so we can see if we can find out some of the first child prodigies. Who was the first child prodigy? Austrian composer Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, 1756 to 1791, is a child prodigy poster child. Okay, let's see if we can find something just a tiny bit older than that. One keyword we can put up is ancient child kings or queens, so we'll just put ancient child kings. 6 child monarchs who changed history. And we'll put prodigy just so we can make sure we keep it to our key terms. So let's look both at this and at this and see if we can find out which ones are the oldest. So we have Mozart, Enrico, Sorwana, Pablo Pistachio, Pascal, Rimbaud, Schumann, Champlain. Okay, and before we go on to this one, the 6 child monarchs, let's find out exactly what prodigy means. A person, especially a young one, endowed with exceptional qualities or abilities. Okay, and then one question that might ask yourself is, what is the standard that they lived in that made them a prodigy? Okay, so the first one on their list, let's just scan over this. What I'm looking for is not only the name, but also the date, if I see it. 51 BC, say, let's see, 1643 to 18, 14th century, 1542, 1177. Okay, so it says the first one was Pomley 6, so that's 5, 6, 7, 8. Pomley the eighth, Theos Philopator. Now, just because he was a king doesn't make, just because he was a monarch does not necessarily mean he was a prodigy. But let's see what it says and see if we can find out more about him, because I'm not sure who he is. The 13th ruler of Egypt's um Ptolemy, um Ptolemaic dynasty. Um, Pomley the Eighth rubbed elbows with some of ancient history's most towering figures during his short life. The young pharaoh first came to power in 51 BC at the age of 11 or 12. He soon found himself overshadowed by his famous sister Cleopatra, whom he had married in accordance with ancient Egyptian custom. Just jealous of her increasing celebrity, in 48 BC, Pomley sparked a civil war after he plotted with influential members of court and expelled Cleopatra from Egypt. Pomley also allied himself with the Roman leader Pompey, who was then at war with Julius Caesar. When Pompey was defeated and arrived in Egypt seeking refuge, the teenage pharaoh had him assassinated in an attempt to impress Caesar and ingratiate himself to Rome. The plan proved unsuccessful, and after arriving in Egypt, Caesar forced the boy ruler to reconcile with his sister. Pomley VIII eventually led an Egyptian army against the Romans, but Caesar soundly defeated his forces in a battle that resulted in the burning of the famed Library of Alexandria. The young ruler is then believed to have drowned in the Nile River as he tried to flee capture. Okay. So I'm just taking a moment to really think about this story or history of Pomley the Eighth. Um, that's a young time to spark a young age to spark a civil war. Let's find out what the civil war was about exactly. Let's see, 48 BC, Pomley sparked a civil war. The Siege of Alexandria, Caesar's Civil War. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna research this, and in the next video we're gonna talk about 48 BC, Pomley's Civil War, also known as Caesar's Civil War, Siege of Alexandria.